mouth, better add your respect. Otherwise, pressure gon' be at your neck when I burn you like. This ain't a game, my aim is the throne. I'm much higher than you, like a rocket, a drone. I'm powerful, think of a stone. Throw it off in my brain and I'm back to the bone.
The race continues here at Kartrider Drift League as we open up Day 5 of the very first regular season ever. My name is William Cho, joined by State, and we'll be bringing you the action today. And it's Saturday, which means we've got team matches and solo matches going on today.
Yeah, it's the best day of the week. Saturday at KDL, man. Got a little bit of everything, and we have two really fun team matches in store for you for teams that are really fighting for the middle ranks right now and trying to vie for one of those playoff spots.
Yeah, it's a good point that you bring up, right? I mean, in the beginning, yes, we've had some pros versus amateurs and things like that, but let's take a look at the standing together to see exactly what we're talking about. So right in the middle, you already kind of see all the teams we're going to see in the team matches today. Live Sandbox all the way through down to 6th place, and always those 4 teams will be looking to see if they can get extra points or if they're going to be pushed down even further.
Yeah, and for Team Always and Seongnam ROX, it's a really important one too, as both these teams are either struggling in item mode or they're struggling in speed mode, and as a result, not too much to show for it, even though, you know, these teams had a lot of potential. Seongnam ROX, especially in both of the preseasons, was racing very well, but now with this slightly re-kitted roster in the regular season, struggling to crack that top 4 as we take a look at the polls for this one. Actually, 90% in favor of Team ROX. I think that's underselling Always just a little bit. They've been struggling in speed mode, but still.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree with that. Of course, we also have the solo match predictions at the bottom, but okay, we're going to move things along because the racers do not want to wait any longer. We'll review the solo match stuff when we get there. Don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, but for now, team match on our hands, and first up on stage, it is going to be Team Always looking for that upset.
Yeah, Team Always so far has been struggling winless in sets for speed thus far, although Diamond has been looking absolutely solid for them, the lone bright spot on their speed squad so far in the regular season, whereas Seongnam ROX, they're still able to deliver in speed mode. For them, item has really been their Achilles heel, so kind of a yin and yang, a bit of a different stylistic matchup coming in for this first match.
Yeah, and it is a little surprising that they're struggling, this much in item mode, right? Because this is one of those pro teams that does have an item ace. And the fact that they're not able to quite get a good pulse here on the current meta with Lens at the helm for their item mode, that's something to be a little concerned about. However, they were actually talking about this during the Korean pre-show today. You know, the agreement is that most people haven't quite agreed on what exactly the meta is yet in item mode here in the regular season.
Yeah, it's quite different. I mean, even going from the pick and bans starting out in item mode, it is very different in that you don't know whether you want to play on 2-star or 3-star tracks because now the item setups are different. And given the new heroic tier of cards, item mode is so much faster. It's a lot more tempo-based. It's a lot less item-based in terms of long move combo. But we'll talk more about item mode when we get there. Before then, for speed mode thus far, it has been a rough go of it for Team Always. They are absolutely the underdogs coming into this one. As you can see right now, 3 of their 4 players in speed are at the complete bottom of the rankings in the individual standings for speed. And they say, don't cry because it hurts our hearts.
Yeah,
I don't know who they're talking to with this one.
I mean, well, they're telling Seongnam ROX, right? Like, we don't want to feel pity for you, so please don't cry once we beat you. But the thing is there is reason for this. Although they have such poor ranks in speed mode, they did beat another pro team in MIRAENSEJONG, right, in the very opening match. So, I mean, ROX, they cannot underestimate their opponents today because Always has shown that if it comes to that ace match, Diamond, who is one of the players that has a decent ranking in speed mode, will show up.
Yeah, he was really good in the ace matches. In the qualifying matches coming into this regular season, he's kind of building a name for himself as one of those racers that might go undefeated in ace matches thus far, whereas ROX, you know, now here in the regular season, they no longer have Jong. Jong is not playing Kart Rider Drift. He's retiring. He's focused on his studies. It's a ROX esports. They don't have that ace in the hole that they used to, and while this is still a very strong roster overall, I mean, not having Jong from preseason 2 competing with them, it really complicates the winning formula.
Yeah, and here's the thing, if you're a player on that roster, I think you have to take a different spin on it. And you have to just say, okay, this is an opportunity for me to now take the spotlight, right? Because before, let's be honest, everyone was kind of behind Jong's shadows, so to speak, just because he was so dominant. So hopefully they take this more as a confidence opportunity as we take a look at the picks and bans for rounds today. Take a look at bans first. We do see Brazil Circuit and Construction Chaos being eliminated by Always, 2 very different tracks. Meanwhile, Handy Harbor and Boom Hill Tunnel, both village tracks being banned out by Seongnam ROX.
Yeah, it seems like ROX esports wants to play on relatively complicated maps, just spanning both of the village ones straight away. And even their picks, World Tour, Terracotta Twister, Glacier Extreme Stadium, and the Shanghai Circuit. Very tough lines on that one. I'm actually surprised that Always went for Mind Winding Slopes 2 for round number 4, because that feels like one of the more technical tracks in terms of lines.
Yeah, and also just Always, both their bans and picks, like one is a field track, very open, and then another one's a very difficult one, right? So you look at the bans, it's Brazil Circuit, then Construction Chaos being banned. Their picks, right, they did have Miami Drive, which is a bit more open, and then you have, of course, Winding Slopes, which is pretty difficult. We'll see if we even get to round 4, though, of course, because Always has yet to win a single track in speed mode. Can they kick things off today on World Tour Terracotta Twister? And the race begins. Always yet to have a victory on a single track of speed mode. But we have to mention, it's not because of Diamond. He's always at the front of the pack.
No, Diamond has been doing really well, but if you look at the individual standings right now for the rankings, Move, Ming, and Knight are the bottom 3 overall out of 30-plus players. So hopefully coming into this weekend, they've gone back to the drawing board. They've re-looked at their lines. They probably, had some time with their coaching staff trying to figure out a solution to this problem. But even here in Terracotta Twister, this has kind of been the story for Always. Diamond is leading the pack right now in first place. Knight, Ming, and Move all in last.
Okay, Diamond, a bit of a recovery. He does bump, which does mean he's going to lose his top speed a little bit. And that means he's not entirely ahead of the pack anymore, right? Sure, he was still able to recover by making sure he stopped Acid Fly, but at the end of the day, he's not able to keep the entire distance gap, and now it's a 1v3 for Diamond, and where are his teammates? Nowhere to be seen here on the screen.
Yeah, it's near impossible to win a 1v3 like this one, especially with the drafts coming through. As Diamond, he's doing his best to keep ALS in this thing, but he's just getting bullied right now, both by Na'Vi and by Acid Fly as they sweep into him a little bit. But okay, Move is making moves. Yeah. He's coming up, trying to lend some assistance. I love that tight inner line. And now he's in the top 3. So if Move and Diamond can start to make a play for Looning and Na'Vi, perhaps in the tomb section of this map, maybe ALS has a chance.
Yeah, it's got to be a double play, though, right? Because otherwise their teammates locked in at 7th and 8th right now. So Move, it's up to him to, first of all, trying to break the ranks. He's trying to put the pressure on Na'Vi, but he loses too much speed, trying to make sure he can find a better angle. Meanwhile, you also see Diamond getting bumped over the curve as he tries to take too tight of a line. And I have to say, as we most likely will see a 1-2-3-4 finish here for Seongnam ROX, this has been the story for Always. They're always playing very loose and aggressive, trying to make a Hail Mary play, and if that fails, you have nothing else left over. Once again, it happens on Terracotta Twister. Seongnam ROX with a clean 1, 2, 3, and 4 finish for the very first round.
Yeah, Looting, of course, coming in first place, has been a true speed ace for Team ROX Esports, but I love what you said there with Always, because I feel like that Hail Mary play, it's not really the game plan coming into it, but they are forced into it every single time because, you race through lap number 1, lap number 2, and they get closer and closer to that finish line. Usually you have a number of racers as ALS at the bottom of the track, right? So that means that suddenly Diamond has to try to start sweeping and making really crazy plays in the front and slowing the other team down to hopefully provide some breathing room for his teammates. And I think for ALS, they just really have to work on their starting lines because they are losing tempo right from the beginning of each track.
Yeah, and even from the get-go, it seems like they maybe are trying to focus on this shift that you don't lose boost gauge when you collide against the wall anymore, but because of that, they try to play too aggressively even when they don't need to, and then they lose their top speed still. You know, sure, you're still able to continue your boost gauge if you're in the middle of a drift, but you're still going to lose your overall top speed if you bump too hard, and that means that you're just so far behind, and at that point, unless you're playing perfectly, it's going to be very hard to catch up. So curious to see if things change a little bit on their tracks of choice. Of course, they are still a pretty formidable team in item mode, so there's more left in this matchup. But for now, we go to the track choice of always. It's going to be round two on World Tour Miami Thrive.
And we're off here on the streets of Miami. Let's see if Team Always can come off to a better start. But ROX Esports so far, not just in this match, but overall has been really dominating in speed mode. And you know, here on Miami Drive, it is one of the more unique speed tracks that we have. There are tons of boosts like this that lead into these large sweeping turns that ALS can play with. And you know, credit to them. Diamond and Move right now in a pretty good position. Ming also in the middle of the pack. I like the start. Yeah,
Mingyu being here alongside Move and Diamond is going to help a lot. That just simply gives them a numbers advantage as well to try to vie for the first part of this track. Of course, a 2-lapper. We're taking a look at the minimap. It is showing us that everyone's still close by, which means at any point, it's not like Boom or Move are reserved all the way in 7th and 8th place. They could try to overtake as we enter lap 2.
Yeah, it's a lot closer than it was to start things off on Terracotta Twister right now, and I'm loving this position here for Ming. He's going to try and sweep Na'Vi into the corner, not able to make it happen, so instead he'll settle for the draft, but Looting really starting to pull away from the pack, so for ALS, that means the win condition, unless you can catch up to Looting, is getting a little bit more complicated. They got to be looking for the 2-3-4, but right now with Move and Knight all the way in last place, I don't know what you have to do for them. Are Ming and Diamond going to start sweeping?
I mean, maybe. You maybe have to just go for these collisions, right? Go for a huge crash of some sort, and Na'Vi decides, okay, we're not going to take that risk if we can get a clean 1-2. Oh, he's trying to just block off the tight line. I think Na'Vi was just trying to sacrifice himself knowing that his teams were there. Maybe it doesn't pay off quite as much as he would have wanted to, but for the time being, it does buy Looting a lot more time, and Acid Fly was still part of the main pack, so they still have a 1-2 here for Seongnam ROX.
Yeah, but ALS now has some winning chances with Na'Vi all the way down into 8th place. You see on the bottom left of the screen, ROX Esports still a couple of points ahead, looking for that 1-3-5 or 1-3-4 finish. Looting seems like a lock for first place as Move and Ming are trying to make a play here.
Oh, and Ming, can he overtake? No, Boom's just going to break away in time. Meanwhile, Acid Fly still holding on to number 2 just a little bit. Move overtakes, but it's still too far behind for 2 players of ALS. And that is a clear 1-3-4-6 this time around for Seongnam ROX. I will say, overall, always, they seem to race better on their own terms. However, Na'Vi with that sacrificial play to make sure that Looting absolutely locked in for first, and then you have the rest of the pack still able to draft off of each other and try to contest for whether it's 2nd or 3rd place. Make sure you have that point advantage. Very good play from Seongnam ROX.
Yeah, that was a really smart move. Showed some experience here in speed mode for Na'Vi to make a play like that one, and ALS still winless so far in tracks, but I did like their play there on Miami Drive. It looked a lot better than on the more technical tracks we see sometimes here in speed, such as Terracotta Twister, but now we're going to be moving into Glacier Extreme Stadium, which, you know, the hairpin turns, all the tight lines you got to take on this track. It can be really dangerous. It's very cutthroat, and that's something where a veteran team like ROX Esports, they excel in, but ALS, they haven't really been able to put up a fight on these more difficult tracks. We'll see if they can start to swing things back into their favor here and look for that first track win. Let's move to the next map, Glacier Extreme Stadium.
And they're off, 8 racers on the icy tracks here of Glacier Extreme Stadium, and always they're still looking for that very first victory on a single track of speed mode, currently now 0-8 in terms of rounds.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, they have been looking good so far in item mode, and you know, Diamond is quite good at playing ace matches should they get there, but this isn't going to be a winning formula for them unless they're able to start changing their odds here in speed. And the last 2 tracks, I'm liking it so far. Ming and Move right now in a pretty good position. Diamond right there in 6th rank. He absolutely has the potential to start moving up, especially as we enter the hairpins. And Ming actually going to make a play here to try to catch up with Boom.
Yeah, he's just keeping in range at the very least, and it should give an opportunity. Okay, that's going to spin him out a little bit too wide, and boom, good defense there to keep it, taking another sharp turn at the very last hairpin as well, securing first place here at the end of the first lap. This is a 2-lapper, so we go into our last lap here of this third track.
Yeah, an acid fly on that straightaway, really able to gain a lot of ground. Keep in mind that 1-2 is a win condition here, so ROX Esports going to look to try to defend that as best they can. And as we see on the mini-map, Move is so far behind the pack that if ALS wants to come through with a win here, they're going to have to unseat this 1-2.
Yeah, I mean, they have to kind of get the 1-2 themselves, right? I'm just going to say it. Move is out of the picture. He's out of the race for the time being in all intents and purposes. Diamond, not the racer we were worried about. He's still back at the front of the pack, but here's the thing. Mingyu, he was pushed away so early on by Acid Fly. Acid Fly's been having some great sweeping this regular season, and now Diamond is the one who has to break through that, and he has to just knock everyone off of the jump here at the end of the hairpins if they want a chance here for Team Always.
Yeah, they need a 1-2 or a 2-3-4 finish coming into this one with Move all the way in the last of the pack. And Diamond, he's in a great position, but he's just surrounded by ROX Esports. Navi actually going to go off. So Move will not finish in last, but it's going to be a clean 1-2-3 as ROX sweeps the best of 5 in speed mode. And we'll head into item mode with a 1-0 lead in this series. And I gotta say, for Team Always, they looked a little bit better there, at least on the start of the tracks, but there clearly is some work that needs to be done by this team if they're gonna start succeeding against the veterans in speed mode.
Yeah, and I think Extreme Stadium is one of those tracks that really showcases the weaknesses that Always currently has. I mean, you see it, you saw it on the hairpins, you saw it on some of the early turns from Move as well, where you're so concerned about fighting your opponent that you kind of lose track of, okay, is this optimal speed? Is this optimal, drift gauge? How do I maintain my drift and come out at the right angle? It's not just about entering the line at the right speed and angle, but you have to exit with a plan in mind as well, and it does seem that's where they're lacking for the time being. Sure, the regular season is a long whiles away, so they can still grow, and most importantly, we still have item mode left.
Yeah, and item mode so far this season has really been where Team Always is able to shine, and once they win that item mode, if they can, then suddenly you're forcing an ace match where Diamond can really hang with the best of them. So a win here in the series is absolutely still in the cards, but it is painful if you look at the long-term stretch of the season. It really is a marathon, and if you lose speed mode after speed mode after speed mode, once those round and set differentials come in as a tiebreaker to decide who is going to go to the playoffs and who is not, it can come back to haunt them. So Always going to have to start looking for some real match wins, and it's going to have to start here in item mode.
Yeah, we'll see if they can bring things back. They're going to kick things off on a relatively long track for item mode. It's actually World Tour San Francisco Seaplane Base kicking us off in round 1. Then another World Tour on Venice Gondola Tour, and we go back to some familiar territory, Magma Cavern, Clock Tower Crossing. And if it does go to a round 5, go to another new theme here in the regular season, Graveyard Cemetery Circuit.
That's a little bit of a mix of 2-star and 3-star tracks here. It should be a lot of fun coming into this one as, Always we were kind of harping on them not being that great in speed mode so far, but ROX Esports really has kind of been having the opposite problem.
Yes.
Where in item mode, they have also been struggling. I do believe they've been able to win some tracks in item, but so far in terms of sets of item mode, of the best of 5, they haven't been able to deliver any wins. So this is really Always' chance to start to fight back and potentially force an ace match where Diamond can come out and show them that they mean business. Let's get ready to go into the first track. We'll Always be able to win here in item mode on World Tour Seaplane Base. Team Always now on the move, gonna try and flex those item mode muscles to force an ace match here ideally, and they really seem to be the team that has been adjusting quite well to the new meta here. Of course, now with heroic tiers in carts, item mode, it's played a lot more aggressively in terms of speed, it's a lot more tempo based, and with the new items being added to the level 3 tracks as well, the 3-star difficulty tracks, it's really been messing things up for teams like Seongnam ROX, and I'm wondering if ROX, since their last match, has been able to go back to the drawing board and come through with a new game plan here, because so far, Navi and Lens, they're off to a really good start.
Yeah, a lot of pressure on Lens as well. Their very first opening match, Lens actually ended up showing some tears because he regretted having to send Looning out to the ace match. Thankfully, that time, Looning brought home victory, but then they were in the same position again against MIRAENSEJONG just this past weekend, and at that point, they were actually close to winning it out in item mode. They were up 2-0, and they allowed the reverse sweep in item mode. Eventually, Looning not able able to defeat Hojun down in the ace match either. So a bit of a nightmare here for Lens, the item ace, but currently still able to take control of the midfield with that Siren as we enter lap 2.
Yeah, entering lap number 2, Boong in first place, or he was for a fair bit of time. So some nice tempo here for Team ROX. Move, not too much of a lead right now, as he does have that big banana, waiting to see when he does drop that one out. And actually, he does right there on the corner, try to catch these racers in the blind spot.
I like it. I like the positioning. It was a good angle, but everyone's somewhat aware of that possibility from Seongnam ROX, so they will avoid it. Now, Move, unfortunately, he's just getting banana after banana, so he's going to have to fall back a little bit and have to reset his items to try to recover that forward position.
Yeah, now he does have a little bit of aggression here as the rocket comes in. It does get deflected by Boong, as another one will finally spin him out as ALS. They do have a couple of attacks here in the card, so Boong is going to be falling back down into 3rd or 4th place, actually falling all the way down to the 8th, as it's a tighter pack than I realized here. Right behind this one. Oh, Move.
Yeah, I mean, those shortcuts on this track, you actually have to make sure you have some top speed to make it if you don't have a boost. In fact, sometimes you have to make sure you're choosing the correct cart body as well, which it does appear that most people have in this one, but you gotta make sure that you're prepped for it. Right now, we enter lap 3. UFO's already going off. Now, most importantly, Move holding on to that lightning bolt, and if it happens on one of those shortcuts, it could really mess up his opponents.
Yeah, we'll see when that Thunderbolt decides to come through here for Team ALS, as it seems they're holding on to quite a few good cars. Knight is going to pop the Siren right now and see if he can find any collisions, but no, instead just going to swap that out. Water Balloon, we'll see if he can line this one up on Navi. No, he doesn't even need to. Diamond comes in with a rocket, so ALS right now in a pretty good position. Keep in mind, they still have that Thunderbolt.
Yeah, that could be used for defense. Of course, Guardian Angel's now available on both sides, so Team Always, you cannot rely just on the Thunderbolt, which is why they're making sure Diamond is able to keep shooting forward. He has a boost and a shield as well. I mean, all things considered, he should be able to get out scot-free. An amazing Siren from Move for defense.
Thunderbolt comes in. It does get deflected right there as a Magnet is popped, but Lens is not going to be able to have the speed to actually catch up to Diamond, I don't think, as the shield pops once again, 200 meters out on the straightaway.
Oh, nice.
And ALS, they even have the insurance coming through on the outside, as they're going to pick up another track win here. And, you know, that was closer than it should be comfortable for Team ALS. You know, that was a win. But given the kind of mismatch of these teams in speed mode and in item mode, I think they're looking for something a little bit more dominant. So moving on to track number 2. I'm a little concerned for them. ROX Esports, they seem to be handling item mode a fair bit better than previously.
Sure, yeah, no, I see where you're coming from, right? You look at the record so far, and for Team Always to have a shot at winning the whole thing, they should be dominating this item mode, absolutely, because it is the apparent weakness of Seongnam ROX here in the regular season. But a win is a win, and I think they'll be happy with that one. 1 on the board, they'll need 2 more before they get to go to an ace match against Seongnam ROX. Meanwhile, Lens, some hand signals here from Lens. It does seem like he was just saying, okay, we can move on. Maybe he just wanted to double check something. We'll have to wait and see, but you can see the pressure starting to get to him. I mean, he's been taking on the role of item ace very, very seriously. Maybe to some extent too much, because he's bearing so much burden, it seems. And his teammates, if you listen to their comments videos, they're trying to lighten him up. And Lens is just like, no, like, this is so serious. I have to make sure we win as the item ace. See if he can bring that victory back here on round 2. Of course, it is the selection from Seongnam ROX on Venice Gondola Tour. And the race begins here in Venice. Team Always, 1 on the board. They're going to need 2 more to extend this to an ace match.
Only a 2-lapper here on Venice Gondola Tour, so a bit of a shorter track compared to Seaplane Base, and we'll see how that plays into both these teams' game plans coming through with the tempo, as Lens and Navi off to a really great start as we enter the gondolas. I always laugh seeing this. Yeah. You can even get hit by water balloons when you're riding the gondola.
Yeah, and then they're still like rowing away while they're in the balloon. It's pretty funny to watch. But a good setup so far from Looning, right? Double Siren right off the bat allows his teammates and Lens and Navi to have a pretty hefty lead. And just look at the minimap. They're actually so far ahead. One of them even taking that shortcut there with the extra boost. Now Lens does fall behind as he hits that flower pot, but Navi double shield so far ahead. The Magnum finally something to slow him down just a tad bit.
Yeah, Lens for a fair bit of time also had a double shield when he was behind Navi in second place, so he absorbed a lot of the aggro. That's going to allow ROX Esports to kind of play this to the best of their ability here in terms of tempo. You can see Navi on that minimap, he's getting further and further away from second place. And if ROX Esports can now just kind of go on the attack here against the rear ranks of Team ALS, Navi might be able to actually run away with this thing. He still has a shield. He has a double shield.
Yeah, that's the idea, too. You saw Looning trying to block them off on that small, narrow shortcut. Knight going to be able to enter the gondola before the attacks come through, so he's going to be moving on. Navi still an extra shield in the bank. We'll see if he gets up any more defenses. Knight just trying to catch up. He's close, but the water balloon does not hit in front. It's only going to catch Knight, so he's far behind. The attacks start flying in once again.
Man, at least ALS is starting to close the distance. Oh no, I say that, and then another attack comes through, and now it's 1, 2, 3, 4 here for ROX Esports. And it's not just Navi you have to worry about anymore, it's also Looning, and boom, Looning has a Nitrous. Navi with double shield so far away in first place. Yeah. I think ALS is not going to be coming away with this track unless they come up with some crazy play.
Yeah, and Seongnam ROX, they took the idea that tempo is the meta here in the regular season to heart. Absolutely. They saw how far Navi was ahead in the first lap, and they did everything. Body blocking, items, everything was thrown to just say, hey, Navi, just keep the lead, right? Just get some shields. If you get UFO'd, we're still going to have enough distance between you and the opponents where you're not going to get crept up on. And that was the name of the game for lap 2.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that play call came through from Lens as soon as he realized the situation with Navi in first place, himself, Lens in second, both with double shield right from the beginning, because Lens knows he can absorb a ton of the aggro from the team as long as they focus then on aggressing the rear players for Team ALS. They can play that tempo lead, and there was one moment where they got close to Navi, but that was it for pretty much the entire track. So now we're going to come into track number 3 here in a moment, all tied up 1-1 in item mode.
Yeah, this is going to be a pretty chaotic one as well. Of course, Magma Cavern is awaiting us in round 3. Very narrow track, but still a 3-star. So not only do you have the old water bombs to worry about, but now you got those sirens and big bananas that can mess you up on such a narrow track. We'll wait to see who takes the lead, tied 1-1 as we go into Magma Cavern.
We go on one of the classics, Magma Cavern, and I love how you talk about the narrow track on this one because there are some positions here, especially heading into the finish line on lap number 3, where it's almost impossible to avoid water balloons, especially since the recent patch when they made it easier for you to kind of be able to sight down where the water balloon is going to land on your minimap as the first-person player. It's going to make setting those attacks up a lot easier, so I'm wondering whether either of these teams is going to come through with those, but once again, ROX Esports with the tempo play. It's Navi in first place with double shield.
Yeah, you've got double shield, a Guardian Angel on your teammates, EMP over on Looning as well. All defenses stored up. Knight falls into the magma, falling further behind, and this is a 3-lapper, but the laps are pretty short, so Team Always, they do not have as much time as they would like right now to try to catch up.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough battle for them as Knight's going to be able to come out with one more rocket, but he gets hit himself by an attack. Navi still holding onto his shield, does pop it to deflect one more weapon coming through as ROX Esports Lens is going to try and provide some covering fire here for Navi. And look at the minimap again. You need binoculars to see this guy. You need a microscope to spot him on the minimap. I mean, ALS, they're trying their best to close the distance, but ROX Esports with this tempo play and the aggression just coming through non-stop is doing so much work.
And the fact that they are now using Guardian Angels to make sure that Looning is able to keep second place and body block. Look at the way he's positioning. He just wants to eat up the targeting. Now this time he wasn't able to block the magnet, so finally Node gets close by and some attacks coming through, but the shields are still there on Navi. He hasn't used them yet. Now finally using both to keep the lead. Banana now in store for Navi, and Seongnam ROX once again 3 members in front to try to draw the aggro.
Oh, Looning has double banana right now. He pops one. We'll see if he's trying to set up another one as I feel like Navi, once again, I'm getting deja vu, man. The Siren's coming through. There isn't Nitrous here for Node. Oh, and he gets denied the items as well by Looning. The Magnet comes through, but it's not enough. And this tempo play from Seongnam ROX seems to be the missing link that they've been lacking so far here in the regular season in item mode. Now up 2-1 in this best of 5.
I mean, this is as dominant as an item mode track can be. I mean, Navi just wasn't even targeted for the entire second lap, if I'm not mistaken. He was so far ahead that the targeting couldn't catch him. There were a couple opportunities where you could tell, you know, whether it was players like Node or Move that were trying to wait to find an opportunity right around the curves, and then they would just get blocked off by another opponent, so eventually magnets, rockets were used just to try to catch up. And yeah, they had one opportunity near the end where they were able to start to target down Navi, but he was so far ahead. Shield still in store. And at the very end, one UFO EMP'd, the second UFO and Magnet a little too late as Navi was able to crawl across the finish line, bringing home point number 2 in item mode for Seongnam ROX.
So now if your team always, it is match point. You have to win here if you want to force an ace match. You got to win 2 in a row to get to that final 1v1. This is a must-win situation for them on Village Clock Tower Crossing. What is going to be their game plan to actually stop this tempo play coming through from ROX? Let's find it out as we go to track number 4.
Team Always now looking down the barrel of match point for Seongnam ROX. If they can't win here, that's going to be a clean 2-0 sweep from Seongnam ROX. If Team Always wins, we have one more track of item mode before we see if we go to an ace match.
Oh, Navi actually able to hit a banana right there on Diamond, just perfectly lined it up. Rare that you see these bananas actually connect at a high level like this one, so some great sight from him. And once again, he is kind of running away with the tempo thing. It seems like this is really the game plan for ROX. And I was so curious from this that I went back and I looked at the preview sheets that we got from our staff before the show. And I looked at the build for Navi. It's not even anything that's specifically fast. It's nothing unique. It's nothing different. It's a 7-5-9-1, which 3 other players are running here on this track. Navi, it's just team support that's allowing him to gain so much tempo. And now look at this. Remember last time before, it was double shield on Navi and double shield on Lens that was able to absorb the aggro. This time, Looning already on lap 2 has double Angel Shield.
Yeah, and the rest, I mean, Boom currently, he's actually just making sure he's positioned to use these water bombs, and he blocks off 2 members. Look at that, he purposely slowed down to get that distance, and now the Wisps come out as well. Seongnam ROX, they have become very, very strategic. Now, I'm glad you brought up the cart body parts because perhaps Navi wasn't always meant to be the one who's finishing first, but it's whoever is able to get first, you know, halfway through that first track. You just keep running with defense, everyone else. Now we position ourselves, kind of spread ourselves across the standings, make sure someone's on duty for attack, someone's on duty to eat up the aggro. Looning now on duty with those water bombs, and again, he hits 3 and a teammate, but it doesn't matter because it's part of the plan here for Seongnam ROX.
I mean, it doesn't matter in item mode. It's all about who finishes first. And right now, that's going to be Navi. ROX still holding on to another Angel Shield, and the water bombs have been so insane so far in this track. I think we've had 4 different ones connect consecutively with players on ALS. I've never seen the water bomb used as effectively. I mean, look, he's already crossed the finish line.
And he's been UFO'd, I think 3 UFOs in a row. We saw in the picture-in-picture, he was just constantly waving in the air as he's trying to get pulled up by this alien, and he's still so far ahead that nobody could catch up to this guy. Seongnam ROX absolutely turning a new page here for item mode as they win a clean 2-0 sweep in this team match against Team Always.
I'm almost at a loss for words about how Navi was able to play this tempo style. Yeah. 3 maps in a row. And of course, it's not just Navi, it's everybody on Team ROX. There was sweeping coming through like it was speed mode. There were water balloons connecting time after time again. And ROX Esports, if this is a winning formula for them moving forward, they're going to be a tough team to beat.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you mentioned, you even have members like Looning just going for the body blocks to buy time to make sure that you can cycle yourselves into different positions for better item chances. The water balloon, the water bomb kind of perfection and accuracy. All across the board, everyone was on point. As you mentioned, in Clock Tower Crossing, we saw like 3 in a row that were multi-kills. And so Seongnam ROX coming in very, very strong here in this team match, looking revitalized as they try to climb up towards the top half of the leaderboard.
Yeah, this was a really important win for them too, as I believe these teams coming into this one were, if I'm not mistaken, in standings either 5 and 6 or 4 and 5.
5 and 6, yeah.
5 and 6. I mean, with the cutoff with a wild card, you want to get up there as high as you can. You want some buffer as you're getting closer and closer to that postseason. So for ROX Esports now, come in here and have a performance against one of the better item teams so far in the league means that suddenly they're a different beast coming into this one. I mean, Looning time and time again has been able to perform not just in speed mode, but in item mode, as you said, with the sweeping and also in ace matches. And so if they can become a much more well-rounded team, you know, we might see some more ROX Esports success similar to what we saw in the preseason.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this was a brand that was starting to climb the ranks and say, no, we should be in the conversation, you know, alongside teams like Kwangdong Freaks and Live Sandbox. Now, it didn't pan out in preseason 2, and then a lot of their opponents, you know, we saw it in the interviews before the league started, they're like, well, we don't really count Seongnam ROX as a pro team, right? We kind of put them down in the bottom half of the rankings. Seongnam ROX is here to say, no, we really need to be part of that conversation once again.
And it does feel that way. You know, when they lost Jong coming in after he retired, I was looking at this ROX roster like, well, suddenly it's a little bit weak. Yes, you do have Looting now, and he's a great player.
Sure.
I know that Wolf has been high on Looting for a long time, and he was certainly right about that. But will the rest of the roster be able to step up? And then they came in, they were struggling in item mode for the first couple of weeks, right? And now then going against Always, who so far has really only been able to win in item mode and defeat them in kind of a clinical way.
Yeah.
It's very impressive.
Yeah, and also I think for Team Always, this is where you realize, okay, this whole just like playing our own way, playing loose and fast, it's not going to work anymore, right? You've kind of hit this wall and say, okay, we really got to brush up on some basics, which is fine. I mean, we take a look at some of these amateur teams, especially a team like Always, where a lot of the players are actually quite new to this main stage. You're going to need some time to brush up. Hopefully we see them recover. But ladies and gentlemen, we're not done just yet for tonight. We still have another team match and solos coming up. Next up after this break, we have MIRAENSEJONG going up against Live Sandbox. Pro team versus pro team. You don't want to miss it. We'll be right back.